It was Mara that first gave birth to all of creation and pledged to watch over us as her children. It is from her love of us that we first learn to love one another. It is from this love that we learn that a life lived alone is no life at all. We gather here today under Mara's loving gaze to bear witness to the union of two souls in eternal companionship. May they journey forth together in this life and the next, in prosperity and poverty, and in joy and hardship. Every weary adventurer across Tamriel should whisper a prayer to Mara when their marital home comes into view on the horizon. With stiff joints and a dirt-caked tunic, there is no greater gift than a lover's welcome. Yes, believe it or not, there is a lot more to marriage in the Elder Scrolls than just your daily 100 gold share of the family business, your homemade meal with its increased magicka stamina and health regen, and the lover's comfort passive effect. Granted, those are undoubtedly big selling points, but there's much more to learn about this ancient custom, and like all things on Tamriel, different races and cultures have their own unique ways of uniting two individuals. The marriage may be carried out in a chapel, where the divines can bear witness to the ceremony. It may take place deep in the wilderness, in the domain of the hiss trees. Or maybe it takes place on the stroke of midnight, where the moons may watch like proud parents. The one constant that persists in every variety of marriage is the unbreakable bond between two lovers. Two individuals joined as one. Alright, enough of the sappy sentimentality for a moment. There is of course much more nuance involved in such a universal custom. Nuance we'll get into now. Hey guys, it's Drew here and welcome back to Fudge Muppet. In a time before Tinder, where sliding into someone's DMs required you to write a letter and hand deliver it, or God forbid, actually talk to the person face to face, courtship took many forms. A mortal was generally presented with two options: court your chosen beloved, maybe ending in matrimony, or stay home and settle for a copy of the lusty Argonian maid. Assuming you picked the former option, look no further than this video to learn all the marriage customs of Tamriel. Let's start with the most common manifestation of marriage, for those who keep the divines as their gods. Gather we now before the eyes and between the hands of Mara, loving mother goddess and goddess of loving another. For to love another is to honour the mother. Gather we here before the loving gaze of loving Mara, to recognise the bond of love between mortals. Mara, the mother goddess of love, fertility and agriculture, is worshipped by most of the Tamrielic races. To the Imperials, the Ultima, the Bosma, the Bretons and the Khajiit, she is known as Mara, and to the Redguards she is Morwa. Morwa is very similar to the typical depictions of Mara, the main difference being that she is described as having 4 arms, so that she can grab more husbands. Typically all marriages between individuals who venerate Mara take place in the Temple of Mara, and the ceremonies are officiated by priests of Mara. Lowborns will generally marry for one reason, love. But to the nobility, marriage also serves as a means to join influential families together, strengthening relationships and alliances. This is especially prevalent among High Elves, who are famous for their obsession with lineage and heritage above all else when marrying. You may think Mara would look down on this, but I'd argue that Mara isn't only interested in true love. She's the goddess of fertility and agriculture as well after all. She understands that marriage creates stable families, and strong familial bonds are the fertile soil needed to raise children. Crops and mortals are not so different in this regard. In the 10 Commands of the Divines, Mara says, "Live soberly and peacefully. Honour your parents and preserve the peace and security of home and family." Mara's love is inherent in all of her teachings, but it is clear that there is more to family and maintaining a home than love and love alone. Even the Ultima, who prioritise lineage over love, do not forsake the gods in the process. Highborn Ultima seek the guidance of the gods by gazing up at the constellations. The stars are said to grant them signs of auspiciousness for the future union. The constellations dictate not only the suitability of the partnership, but even the optimal date of the wedding as pleases the gods. To the Ultima, matchmaking is a long process and requires much devotion and discipline, lasting years, sometimes decades before resulting in a marriage. To break an arranged betrothal is to be cast out, ostracised by family and community. Interclass marriages in Somerset are not unheard of, but they are certainly looked down upon. Blood and genetics are paramount to the High Elves, so to sully one's blood with vampirism or lycanthropy is to bring shame upon the family, and the afflicted individual will never marry. With this in mind, you've probably come to the conclusion that yes, interracial and same-sex marriage is not welcome in Ultima society. A male and female marriage is essential for procreation, and a pure-blooded lineage cannot be secured if a member of another race is married to a High Elf. Exceptions exist, like the interbreeding of the Durrani Elves with the Nedic humans, and the Dunmer princess Morgaya, who married the High Kinlord of Firsthold, but those exceptions are few and far between. Never fear though, because Mara herself does not hold such reservations. According to a priest of Akatosh named Artorius Ponticus, Mother Mara loves all her children regardless of form. She cherishes their souls, not their bodies, and it is the souls that are united when two mortals take the pledge of Mara. Despite this, discrimination is known to occur towards interracial couples, at least in Cyrodiil, as we can see through the Bosmer Hasafil and the Nord Heinrich Oakenhall in Anvil. Some of Anvil's citizens make comments such as, "He, shipmaster, Heinrich Oakenhall, has a wood elf for a wife. I'd rather sleep with my horse." And you don't see a lot of human Bosmer marriages. I don't know if it's even legal in Cyrodiil. For obvious reasons, I'm not going to weigh in on such a topic in the good old year of 2019, but I think it is reasonable to assume that Mara can simultaneously approve of all love, while also appreciating the importance of procreation. The goddess of fertility and agriculture encourages the expansion of the population, and at the same time, she does not wish to exclude anyone from the gifts of love, and the security found within a family home. But as much as love is love, I regret to inform those mortals inclined to take a plethora of partners that polygamy isn't approved in the Church of the Divines, and ecclesiastical authorities will not accommodate such unions. Monogamous marriages, however, have been carried out for thousands of years by Mara worshippers, dating back to the Merethic era. These marriages usually begin with the donning of an amulet of Mara, followed by a ceremony and an exchange of rings. But what about matrimony for those races who do not follow Mara and the Divines? What about the Argonians, the Dunmer, and the Orcs? Well, let's start with the Argonians. The Argonians of Blackmarsh for the most part do not worship the Divines, and instead they entrust the Hist trees with matters of the heart. Argonians believe that the Hist use their omniscience to guide lifelong mates on the path to meet one another, down to the exact place and time. The individual who proposes marriage must present the other with a unique wedding ring. This ring is said to be forged of gold, encrusted with 3 amethysts. These gems are essential, as the 2 outer amethysts represent the couple, while the one in the centre represents the Hist, to which all Argonians owe their life and their love. How about the Dark Elves of Morrowind? Well, the Dunmer have always had a unique way of doing things, whether it's their insectile architecture, their burial rituals, or their Daedra worship. The Dunmer are anything but orthodox. The Dark Elves revere their ancestors, and this facet of their lives is crucial to their marriage customs. Both House and Ashlander Dunmer honour these customs. During the reign of the Tribunal, weddings would take place at shrines to Almalexia. When a couple is wed, the individual from the lesser house or clan is adopted into the more influential house or clan. This comes with perks, as the newlywed is able to commune with the ancestors of their new house, though not as well as those born into the bloodline. This does not mean their connection to their own ancestors is severed though. Similar to the nobility of the divine worshipping races, Dunmer marriages in more noteworthy clans or households are usually organised to suit the political motives of the involved parties. For the common folk, the requirements are much less strict, generally being dictated by physical attraction, sexual performance, and mating potential. In Dunmer society, polygamy is not publicly denounced, and is therefore seen in some rare cases, but for the most part, Dark Elves are monogamous. Lastly, we have the Orcs, and I think it's fair to say their marriage customs are the most unconventional. The first thing to be aware of is that, if you're a male and you aren't a chieftain, and you aren't strong enough to dethrone him, then you needn't listen to the rest, because you'll never be getting married. If you are the son of a chieftain, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is, you can get married when you become a chieftain. But the bad news is, you'll have to brutally kill your father in combat to become the chieftain. So yes, in Orcish stronghold society, only a chieftain may marry, and he may only marry females, but he can marry as many females as he likes. If you're a female in an Orcish stronghold, you don't have a great deal of choice. You can marry a chief, or you can marry another chief. Orcs following Malakath's code value the continuation of the strongest genes above all else, and that is the main purpose of marriage, to ensure the chieftain, who is the strongest in the tribe, brings as many sons and daughters into the world as physically possible. Wives taken by a chieftain are titled based on their responsibilities. The first is generally called the half-wife, and she is the one who warms the chieftain's bed and takes care of the household. The second wife is the forge wife, and she is trained to smith arms and armour. The third wife is the hunt wife, which is pretty self-explanatory. And then there is the shield wife, who is a skilled fighter, trained to accompany her husband into battle. In the Orcish kingdom of Orsinium, marriage customs are very similar for those who worship Malakath, with kings acting as the equivalent to chiefs, marrying the daughters of other kings. Orcish courting rituals are just as unusual as their marriage customs. The suitor must smell of battle and of his enemy's blood before he may approach his potential future wife. He must then present the female with the finest Etchatir cheese and spiced ale he can acquire, for in Orsimer society it is believed that this combination is a powerful aphrodisiac. Finally, they must recite a poem of their own creation, usually on the subject of war, blood and vengeance, all the while maintaining a flattering tone. It then falls to the maiden to accept or deny the proposal. When an orc challenges and defeats the current chieftain, he replaces that chieftain and is able to marry. This responsibility usually falls upon the strongest son of the chief. The mother of the new chieftain becomes the new mother of the tribe. In order to prevent things from growing too incestuous, daughters of one chieftain will usually be betrothed to another suitable chieftain in a nearby stronghold. Not all orcs abide by Malakath's teachings though, and there exists a small subset of orcs called the Cult of Trinamic. These orcs deny the notion that Trinamic was bested by Boethia. Instead, they claim that Trinamic fooled Boethia into believing that he was corrupted by the passage through Boethia, when he in fact absorbed some of Boethia's strength and passed it on to his followers. In this way, the Orsimer can be seen as the improved elves. These orcs do not follow the code, and therefore they enjoy some additional freedoms in their marriage rites. Polygamy is consistent in both sets of traditions. However, Trinamic following orcs may marry even if they do not fall into the category of king or chieftain. The final interesting thing to note about orcish marriage customs is that orcs always carry out their marriage ceremonies at the same time, and that is at the stroke of midnight. And with that, you now know all there is to know about marriage in Tamriel. I hope you enjoyed the video guys, thanks so much for watching, I've been Drew, and I'll see you in the next one.